Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, the president of Dale Carnegie Training, Tokyo, Japan. My special guest today is an old friend of mine, Per Rasmussen, who is the president and representative director for Millet Mountain Group, Japan. Great to see you.
Thank you.
And we're in your premises here. It's fantastic. We can't show everything that's here, but it's got tremendous showroom here with lots of really interesting looking gear. We've got some of it in the background here. But Per, you've been here quite a long time in Japan, so just take us, like, how is it that you got to Japan? Why are you in Japan?
That's a long story. I got, the first thing I remember about Japan is from the mid-70s. I've probably seen something on TV.
Okay.
Because that was before internet and iPhones and all of that stuff. So I've probably seen something on TV, some documentary or so. And it made some impression, and it was just sitting there. There was no information about Japan in those days. Nothing in the newspaper, nothing on TV in general.
Where were you growing up?
I was in Denmark.
Denmark, right?
I'm born in Denmark and raised in Denmark.
Or?
No, out in the countryside.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Any Dane listening to this would be able to pick up my local accent.
Okay.
At least
I
they
would
say
have
so.
no idea, but anyway, I'll take your word for
so.
it.
But then nothing happened with me and Japan for 2 or 3 or 4 years. And then after graduating high school, I took a gap year. And I went, in Denmark we have some special schools, we call them sports schools, but basically you go to get better at sports, and you get a license in teaching, coaching in community clubs. So no professional license or anything. You can go for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And I went and took a 9-month course because I was very interested in sport. And I didn't really know what to do, so it was also, a period of reflection, what to study. And there I met a Japanese girl. So, and that sort of reignited the interest in Japan again. And we're still married, and we are talking, I met her in 81, I think.
Wow, congratulations.
And then through her, I got in contact with Japanese people. She stayed 2 years in Denmark, went back to Japan, then we married after a year and a half. So we lived 6 years in Denmark before moving to Japan, actually. So I'm very lucky in the sense that I managed to get a lot of contact with Japanese in Denmark and visiting Denmark. And also today I have a wife who knows a lot about Denmark and speaks very good Danish, and that makes things a lot easier, not only privately, but also in terms of work at times.
So what did you wind up studying at university after thinking about sports? You went into some...
Well, I did exactly what people who don't know what to do usually end up doing, and that's studying business. When you don't want to become a doctor, or you don't want to become a dentist, or you don't have the skills to become an engineer or so. So I started studying business. And very quickly I got interested in, I have to do something with Japan. Because everybody knew the same things. Something has to be new. Yes, and Japan was just, we're talking, I think I started in 82. And Japan was just sort of coming up on the radar screen. China didn't exist.
Plaza Accord hit in 85 when the currency really took off, right?
Yes.
You're just before that big wave, aren't you? Yeah.
The frustration with it was that there was absolutely no information to get. Because it was just starting. Internet didn't exist. There was nothing in the news. There was nothing in the TV. There was very little in the library. So I was really relying on, through my wife very often, contacts with Japan, and so get some newspaper articles sent over, and there I basically tried every time there was something about Japan, say all projects we had to write, I tried to give it a Japanese angle somehow, and I was the only one who could do it.
Yeah.
So I was probably also the only one who was interested, but that's sort of how it all got started.
Yeah, and so following graduation, what did you do?
Well, then, when I was at business school, I was working very much for a student exchange organization called ISEC. ISEC was trying to get student internships around the world, either during university or after university. And I worked a lot in that organization. I probably learned more business skills in that organization than I did in the classrooms. And I managed to get myself a traineeship in Japan after graduation.
Oh, nice.
So I spent 4 months in a very old-fashioned Japanese industrial company called Nihon Kokan at that time, the steel industry. And they've later merged, and honestly, I'm not really sure who they merged with after that. So I spent 4 months there in Jinjibu, Somu Jinji.
Oh, okay. The General Affairs HR department.
It was not exactly what I had hoped for, to be quite frank. But that's what you get when you come as a generalist in turn. But I learned a lot of things.
Sticking in the HR and General Affairs.
Yes. Together with all the English teachers and things like that. So, but I did learn a lot of things. I stayed at a company dormitory for 4 months, together with the new grads and young men who have been there maybe 3 years after graduation and so. And that also gave an insight into how they live, what are their dreams, abilities, also in terms of financial ability. Yeah. What can you actually do as a newly educated Japanese person? And in those days, it was not a lot.
Not a lot would be much.
It was not a lot. It was really not a lot. So yeah, then I got back to Denmark. And then I decided I want to have a job that has to do with Japan. And in Denmark, you were lucky that it's really, really a North European welfare country. So you graduate from university, and that means you are unemployed. So you get unemployment pay. Okay. So suddenly I was rich. Compared to being a student, I was an unemployed, graduated business person. So I agreed with my wife to give myself 1 year to find a job that had to do with Japan. And it was tough, because there was not that many companies dealing with Japan. Why would they hire somebody without any real work experience or anything? So I didn't manage to get a job that had initially to do with Japan. But my first job I was probably very lucky. I got a job in the toy company, the Lego Group.
Lego Group, yeah.
In the corporate headquarters, working in the marketing side of strategic product development. And that was good school. That was really, really good school. Lego is still one of the, I think, world top companies in terms of training, education, values, vision, and so. 30 years ago.
Did they have an office in Japan?
They had at that time as well.
They did. Yes. So they were on the ground in Japan.
They were on the ground in Japan. I think actually from mid-60s already. Very early. So I worked there, and of course the idea was then to use that as a stepping stone to get into Japan, to Lego's office in Japan.
Yeah.
And that actually it took me 4 years, 3 years in headquarters, which was very, very interesting. And sometimes I'm asking myself, why did I leave?
Yeah, really.
Honestly, it was fantastic. I hope some of my old colleagues and bosses will hear this, but really it was fantastic. Yeah. But I found out that there is a program called Executive Training Program, ETP, run by the EU. Yes. The objective is to increase EU export to Japan. And the strategy is to teach young businessmen and women Japanese language, Japanese culture, Japanese business practices. And in those days, it was a 12-month program. No, 18 months, 12 months language and 6 months internship. Yeah. And I managed to get on that program and came out here in May 89.
Right in the bubble.
Right when it... Just after it had burst.
Yeah. Right. Oh, okay. You came after the crest of the wave. All right.
Which is maybe good, because it would have been terrible to be here 2 years under the bubble and then it all disappeared.
Yeah. Right.
I think that could have been difficult. But I spent then 12 months on the language program, and then 6 months in 2 internships in Japan. And
Had you tried to study Japanese while you were in Denmark?
Very little. Of course, I read some, basic textbooks, and I could read the hiragana and things like that, but when there's no real daily use for it, it's very difficult to learn.
It's theoretical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very difficult to learn a foreign language when there's no real use. But there was a real use when we moved to Japan. We lived very locally. My wife's Japanese. Where we lived, there were only Japanese around.
Were you in Tokyo?
We were living in Tokyo, but out in the Chiba area, close to Funabashi.
Oh, okay.
So it was actually the Chiba prefecture, just into the Chiba prefecture. Yeah. And because of my wife being Japanese, we got in contact with people. And I got into the local soccer club. Oh. I used to play soccer, and one of the other guys in the mansion, we were all 30, 35 years old. His previous colleague was the trainer of the soccer club. So they let me come in.
Wow.
And after 2 months, he got transferred to a job in Osaka.
Right.
And because I have a coaching license from Denmark, he asked me to do the training for the team on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So after 5 months in Japan, I was coaching a Japanese adult soccer team. And well, that's the way you learn to speak, because I
learn to speak, right?
Nobody spoke a word of English.
Yeah, really.
Nothing. So there were a lot of things like that because I had that entry, that it became a lot easier. It was more interesting to study the language because you had to practice or learn something for the soccer training tonight.
Yeah.
And my wife was very tough. She would give me 2,000 yen every 2 weeks and send me out to the local yakitori-san, where there was no pictures in those days, no English menu.
You have to read the menu.
Go read the menu.
I love what that guy's eating.
Yes. Talk to the chef, talk to the other guys. And I did that was every 2 weeks. But it was on no credit card, it was cash. and that's another way to really learn. And then not only the language, but you also get a really good feeling for how people are living, what their ambitions are, abilities. So you get a really, really good feeling. And my intentions was to work in consumer marketing and not in finance or so. So in consumer marketing, you need to have an idea about how are people actually living? How much space do they have? How are they living together with their children if they have any? What's their daily consumption? Where do they buy? And so. So it was really, really good pre-training, I must say, for having a job.
So how long did you stay at Lego?
I stayed at Lego
the program was a year and a half. Did they keep you in Japan after that?
Yes, I stayed. Then I joined the local subsidiary as a marketing manager, and I stayed there 4 years.
Okay.
Which was very, very interesting because it was very difficult times. It was also just after the bubble. It could still be felt that Lego is an expensive toy. And the toy market in Japan is very different. It's fast and short. You buy something, the kids get happy, and 3 hours later they've forgotten about it. That's very much how that market is, and low prices. And we found out that Lego was not positioned correctly in Japan. So I had a very strong.
You've been in Japan since the 60s.
Yes, it was sort of almost mission value religious, meaning that there was no flexibility in how it was positioned.
Right.
And in Europe, Lego is educational toys, which in Japan is kyoikugan. But when you say education in Japan, it is linked to knowledge, not to creativity.
Right.
So Lego was not at all where it should be in people's mind and what the product actually gave to the children.
How's this Lego toy going to get my kid into the juku or into the right school to go to the right university?
And what did he learn from? What did he actually learn from working or playing with this for 1 hour? And there was nothing that you could prove as a learning. No. So we worked quite a lot on getting some re-establishment of the image, but not by changing the brand image or anything. We just did a few things with the product, make some different combinations. We changed the tone and manner of the TV commercials. Very subtle, but enough to that the Japanese could see that this is something that the kids will actually like and have enjoyment. And we stopped using the word kyoikugan, but we didn't really replace it with anything else.
At that stage, Japan changed the educational focus for a while there. That sort of yutori idea of we're going to stop trying to massively cram data and information into our brains. Because we're now in an age where you can just go and get that off the internet like that, Google it, you've got it. And we're going to try and really inculcate more creativity into people's minds to set them up for the future, right?
Yes.
Was that, that would have seemed to have fitted in beautifully with Lego's direction. Was the timing right for that?
That fit in very well, but the most conservative thing in the world is parents' attitude towards their children's education, because they're gambling with their children's future. So yes, maybe smart professors and the Ministry of Education and so think like that. Teachers may think it, but to get the parents to buy into it is really, really tough.
Well, they dropped the whole thing. It was like when they brought that in, I thought, oh, this is Japan. We're getting somewhere here. We're getting away from rote learning. We're trying to think about creativity. Oh, it's going in the right direction. Then those PISA test scores started to come down, and bingo, the whole thing was out the window. And we're back to rote learning again. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't last.
But we did some interesting things at Lego, and it was also interesting internally. It was a small company. I think we were 35 people. And some of them have joined Lego because it was Kyoikugan. And some of the employees were fiercely against trying to change the positioning in order to increase the sales, because that's not why they had joined the company. So we actually had some fierce internal fights with some of the Japanese colleagues that they simply didn't want to change it. But we didn't do big things, but we did once, some people will remember, we had a big bucket with lots of bricks. It was really boring to look at. It was just a lot of bricks in a big bucket. Then after some tough negotiations with headquarters, we were allowed to put an elephant from a different product series into the bucket, and we call it the elephant bucket. And that was the biggest seller for Lego in Japan for 20 years.
Unbelievable.
And we made an animated TV commercial with this elephant and children who played with the bricks and the elephant and called it the elephant bucket. And in Japan, the lifetime of a toy product is 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. This one was more than 20 years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Where did that genius idea about let's take the elephant from over here and stick it in this bucket full of blocks?
It was sort of a mix of my boss and me. He was a Danish person, very much coming from international sales and not from marketing communication at all. I knew nothing about sales, but I had spent 3 years in product development and design at Lego's headquarters and had done a lot of research on children's reactions to this and to this type of products. So talking together, we came up with this fabulous idea, but he had to negotiate.
Is there a plaque somewhere at headquarters?
Probably.
Per's genius idea.
So, maybe there is. But he had to negotiate through with headquarters. It was very difficult to have it approved. But if you talk to people in the toy industry, a lot of people will remember that product. Yeah.
So after Lego, where did you go after that?
Then I got a telephone call from a recruitment company, and they offered me a job in Braun, the German shaving company, electrical appliances. And it was very attractive, really attractive. I couldn't really say no, honestly. I was 35, and when you get 2 children married, and when you get a salary increase, that scale, if you have told your wife, of course, there's no way back. So I took the job as marketing manager.
You told your wife there's no way back.
No, I told her
fatal
how much
last
money.
Words, right?
I told my wife I got this offer and I can make this much money.
She said,
that's it. That's it.
Take it.
Yeah, take it. Of course. So I did, and it was very good. It was very challenging. It was completely different business. Consumer goods. It's still consumer goods, but toys in that distribution channel, and electrical appliances where you sell to Yodobashi Camera and shoot spires at Eon and Ito-Yokado and the other electrical stores and the wholesalers.
And did you get that sort of thing about, Japanese men's beards are different to German or European gentlemen's beards, so your shaver will not be suitable for it'll be too rough on our skins, or it won't do the right job. Did you have that sort of resistance?
Very little, because Braun started very early in Japan, in the early 60s, and introduced the electric shaver. So Braun, for many Japanese, it is the category.
Right.
It is the category. It was fantastic.
Right.
I must say that the people who set it up, and the manager who was there for a very long time, probably heard about Hans Pauli.
No, I haven't.
But now, I've probably not met him. He's a bit older, but he did a fantastic job, really. And what he was really good at was to keep headquarters away, so that we focused on selling shavers.
Right.
and shavers, and nothing else of the product portfolio,
Right.
which they could do in Europe.
Yeah.
Because in Japan, you have to focus. You're a small foreign company.
Yeah.
You cannot do 10 different things with any impact. So it was shavers, and it was so famous. I didn't know, but Brown was doing a series of TV commercials called Morning Report, Brown Morning Report, and they had done it since a long time. And the concept was that you go out in the street and you stop a man and you say, "Did you shave this morning?" "Yes, 30 minutes I left at home." "Try this one." And they would shave, and then you would tap it on the white piece of paper, and you could see that.
Yes, actually, I've seen those commercials.
You've probably
I remember
seen
those
that.
commercials, yeah.
And I was lucky enough, after half a year in the company as a marketing manager, to be in charge of the record or the shooting of the next season's 5 or 6 different. And I said, wow, this is difficult. No, we cannot just go up to a Japanese man and stop him and ask him to do this. We came out with a Brown sign, and people lined up and said, "Take me, take me."
Unbelievable.
The brand and the commercial was so known that people were lining up.
I love that. That's
It was fantastic. I had no idea coming from a small brand like Lego, where people who knew Lego loved it, but it was not very known.
Yeah.
And then go into a hype brand like this.
Wow, great.
And we even did one at a wedding reception, or at a temple, the big temple in Kamakura. And they actually stopped the official shooting of the couple and all the guests to came over.
Oh,
and
the groom? This is the
Yes.
groom?
Yeah,
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
that's fantastic.
Just one moment there, honey. I just got to do
Yeah,
a bit of a
yeah,
retouch on the
yes,
shaving.
yes.
We'll get back
So-
to the wedding ceremony in a moment.
Yeah, and
Wow, I love
to
that.
see that a foreign brand,
Yeah.
which is not a huge company,
No,
but that a foreign brand can be so strong by focusing.
love that.
Yeah.
So how long were you at Brown?
I was there only for a year and a half in Japan.
Oh, okay.
Then they sent me off to. The idea was that I should go to Korea and be the country manager in Korea for a couple of years,
Okay.
and then come back to Japan and maybe grow into that role in Japan.
Right.
And then a few things happened corporate. So I ended up half a year in headquarter. And from there, they sent me to Singapore to be a sales director for Southeast Asia.
All right.
And what I learned there is that I'm not a salesman. I'm not a salesman. I'm not a salesman of a $300 electric shaver in countries in Southeast Asia where they hardly shave. And if they do, they use, say, a Gillette
Yes.
disposable, and they use that for a month before they buy another one.
Yes.
So to sell $300 shavers in Vietnam and Malaysia and Indonesia, Thailand, at that time Philippines, it was completely impossible. At least I found it very impossible. And what we also did was very interesting, because there's no lack of rich people in those countries.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but they didn't shop at home. They were shopping when they were in London or in Paris or in Rome or Tokyo or somewhere else.
Right.
That's where they would buy. Or if it was a shaver, they probably wouldn't even buy them themselves.
Yeah.
They would ask somebody to buy the shaver, somebody on the staff to buy the shaver for them.
Yeah.
So your connection with your actual user and the purchaser was very, very oblique. Yeah, it was very difficult to find out.
So how did you get out of that? How did you get headhunted again? Or how
Yeah,
did
then
you,
I got another telephone call.
You're making a lot of money for these headhunters. I got to say, you're a
they
favourite.
and they never paid anything back. It didn't work out very well. We were in Singapore, and honestly, I didn't like very much all this, traveling all the time. My children were 5 and 8.
Yeah.
I was never at home. And when I was at home in the weekend, I was just wanting to sit at home, and they wanted to go out. So did my wife. So it was just not the best situation. And work-wise, I was not brilliant at it. I don't think anybody could have been really brilliant at it, but I was not.
Right.
So I realized that. My boss realized that, and we decided, okay, we need to find an opportunity, another solution for me. So the company was very, very, I would say, very professional. very kind. So they gave me some job search consulting, coaching and so. And spent, I think from we started till I got the new job was 4 or 5 months. And really I wanted to get back to Japan because I liked it here. I knew I could do things more than many others because of the experience. And then I was lucky to get a job in Japan again.
So who did you join this time?
This time I joined the French group SEP, mainly known in Japan for the Tefal brand, or Tefal brand. And at that time we were selling frying pans and pressure cookers. And quite honestly, I'd never heard about Group SEP. It's a big French group in consumer goods. Today it's really big. In those days it was okay, it was not fantastic, but it was very well known. But I had not heard about it. But I got very interested speaking to the president at that time. They were just up for changing the company or the brand. They were selling the products under the SEP brand, which is the name of the headquarter. And they wanted to change that into the Tefal brand.
Yeah.
So you get a chance to get into a company that's somewhat established, with a user group, with some distribution, and you have to change the brand name.
Nice.
And they were market leader in pressure cookers. Not a huge industry, but they were clear market leaders in pressure cookers. And then you get the challenge as a consumer marketing person to go in and change the brand name. And you don't get that chance very often. To change the brand name.
Where does the name Tefal come from? What does that stand for? Why is it Tefal?
It comes from one of the original chemical ingredients in the coating.
Oh.
Which
So
some long name.
It's a very technical name.
It's a very technical name.
It's not no marketing genius back at headquarters.
No.
Let's call that Tefal.
No. That's no. So
Okay, interesting.
yeah, that's where it comes from. So I joined, and my first job was really to change the brand name. Everything was decided.
The head of marketing? Was that the position?
Yes. Everything was decided. The strategy was there. The new name was there. The design of the brand, of course, it was international brand, and there was actually really a script, a book, a handbook for the next 12 months what to do. So I got that, and then I just had to execute. But of course, in month 3, you find out that it doesn't work exactly like the book is saying. And we found out you can always when you talk branding and product communication, I think there are 2 major schools. The rich one is the one where we communicate just our brand and our brand values, and then we know that people will buy our brand or our product. And those that are not so rich, they need to sell the product tomorrow. So they communicate product until they get so rich that everybody know what the product is, and then we can communicate brand. But I've always been communicating product because I've not been working in fashion or luxury or things like that, but really consumer goods, where people forget the brand as soon as they forget doesn't buy your product. So the whole campaign was very much about a brand campaign, or soft and nice, and if you cook with this, your children will be happy. But it was not very clear what to buy. And we simply, during the process, we decided to change it into very product-focused communication. And what happened...
It's a great product because, cleaning the thing is so easy. We have it at home, of course. I do the washing up, so I love it,
That's exactly what we did. We had that product already at that time under the SEP brand, and it was not moving at all. It was only distributed in department stores, meaning that it's very limited distribution. So you cannot really do consumer communication because it's too targeted to a very small group that visits department stores. So we were trying to sell it, and we had some remaining stock, and we sold it to a Japanese TV shopping company. And they're selling products. TV shopping companies, they're selling products. They're not selling brand, products, and hopefully 10% or 15% off, or if you buy now, you get this as well. Very standard TV shopping. And they did a fantastic job. And they showed the product really well, and they sold very well. So we canceled the contract with them when we could. And then we took the product back into our own product portfolio, rebranded it from Sepp to Tefal, and then we made the Tefal launch commercial based on that product. We were out of stock for a year and a half. We sold so much you won't believe it.
Wow.
We were just out of stock consistently.
Wow. What an awful problem to have.
Yeah, awful problem
to have.
Yes.
That would be.
Yeah.
Great.
It was nope. You have never seen in Japan before that. You've never seen a hit product in cookware or kitchen appliances.
Actually, I think when I met you that's the business you're in at that time.
That's where
And so
it
how
was.
many
That
years were you there?
I was there for 17 years.
17 years.
Yes,
Wow, that's
yes.
the longest stretch, right?
That was a long.
And you
stretch.
eventually became the head.
Yes, I did.
Went from the
After
marketing
5
to
years,
the lead, right?
I went from marketing manager to country manager
Right.
in I think 2003 or something.
Right. Well, we'll
I
come back
stayed
to
on.
that.
Yeah, yes.
And then you have a break from that, and you're doing some consulting for yourself.
Yes.
And now you're with this Millet Mountain Group. So this is when did
I started exactly 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Then.
Yeah,
Wow, I can't
and
believe how fast that's gone.
this is quite interesting because this is completely different again.
Yeah.
But it's a French company again.
Yes.
I don't speak very much French. My French colleagues will sign a paper that's saying that I'm speaking absolutely zero French. Because that's not my job. My job is to communicate internationally and speak with my Japanese organization. Yeah. And the French colleagues are good enough, really good at English, so I don't need to speak French. But it's a very different industry again. Supply chain is very different, seasonalities are different, the usage is different. But there's one thing in common with the products I have been selling in Japan. It's all European, very well-known brands. They are semi-durable consumer products, and you buy them only for functionality. You would never buy a brown shaver for anything but functionality. It's not something you put up as a display in your lobby at home or so. You only buy it for functionality. It's mass distributed in the fourth quartile maybe in terms of pricing, but there's no fashion to it. There's no luxury added to it. It's really consumer goods for functionality only. And Lego, Brown, Tefal, and Millet Mountain Group apparel and backpacks, they all fall into that category. But my God, they're very different anyway.
So if we think about your career, the different jobs you've had, where was the first point in that journey where you actually were running a team? You were the leader of the team. What was it?
The first where I was really running the team was when I got the job as the marketing manager in Tefal.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're in Tefal, you're running a team.
Yeah.
So this is your first job to run a team.
Yeah.
What did you find challenging about running a team in Japan?
The first challenging thing is communication, language skills, and common mutual understanding, and willingness for mutual understanding can be a bit of an issue on both sides. I think that's the biggest thing.
You'd come in from outside, and then you inherited a team, or
Yeah,
you
inherited a team.
created a team.
No, I inherited a
You
team.
inherited a team, so they're
Yeah.
there. Now you turn up, you're the new boss. So
Yeah.
there's automatically you've got to actually get them on board with you personally. haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
So how did you go about that? How did it go?
You need to earn respect. And we are talking some years ago now, meaning respect was hard work.
Yeah,
You were the first in the office, you were the last to go home.
right,
And the next day you're also the first in the office and the last to go home.
right.
And if you want the respect of the salesmen, then you have to go out drinking.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was not as bad as when I was in Lego, but because it was a few years later. But that was the standard, I think, in those days.
Right.
You keep your word. You've promised to do something by some time. You do it by deadline, and you do what you promised to do. So you build up trust. You build up respect. Then you need to. I think the most important is probably to make sure your team is comfortable.
Well, on that point, you mentioned before that with Lego, when they tried to reposition Lego, there was a lot of resistance from people.
Yeah.
So, same with Tefal, they're basically changing the brand name
Yeah.
to Tefal from Sepp.
Yeah.
And so did you Also, as the leader now, did you encounter this resistance, or people got it and they thought, well, they didn't care what the name was called, or would you find some resistance there?
There was no resistance really towards the marketing part of changing the name of the products. It was very much the same products. So we just changed the logo on the products, and it did more of this removable handle one. The resistance came from the sales department, because we wanted to really grow the brand, and that means we needed to go from distribution in department stores to mass distribution.
Right.
And a department store wholesale focused sales department, they don't know how to do that. Of course they don't know, because they've only been selling to department store wholesalers. So for them to certainly have to sell products to Aeon and Ito-Yokado Group and all the supermarkets around Japan is a huge challenge.
And there's also a bit of status to there, isn't there? The department stores are sort of up here, and the supermarkets are down here. I'm dealing with the people at this level. Now you want me to deal with the people down here? Not so sure. That's a bit below me, isn't it?
There was some of that as well.
Was there?
And we definitely did not want to sell to home centers, for example. No, simply not. You could not get a salesperson to contact a whole center, even if they were big and had volume.
Was that because they were thinking that's destroying the brand image? That was taking the brand image down too low?
Yeah.
Is that what
that was what very often was said.
Yeah.
You find out later that the consumer, if you promote your product and your brand well enough, the consumer knows that whether I buy it at the home center or in the department store, it's the same product.
Yes.
They know that.
Yes.
Now, if you make expensive products for department stores and crappy quality for the home center, the consumer will figure that out. But if you have a consistent product offer, consistent quality, consistent pricing...
it's just a matter of convenience for the buyer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm at the home centre, we need something. Oh, great, I'm at the Aeon, we need something. I'm at Shemaya or somewhere, I need something, it's there, right?
So what we did was that we managed to hire a couple of maverick salesmen who were willing to go out and do these things. And that got us the distribution. It brought us the sales.
Those guys must have been happy, because if you're a sales guy or gal and you've got an excellent product like that, and it's been available only in department stores, and now there's this entire market out there that's never been touched, you'd have to be thinking, let me at it.
That would be the Western sales organization mentality.
They weren't thinking like that.
No, they were thinking like that.
These renegade guys were.
But their colleagues hated them.
Oh, really?
They got frozen out by colleagues because they showed a new way that they would then also have to do. And I'm not sure. Definitely, we did not pay as much sales incentive and bonuses as we should have.
Right.
But I think if we had done that, it would have made the situation even worse.
Yes, jealousy would have
it would have been even worse.
Yeah.
We were even in the situation at times where we found out that the guy who was handling the allocation of available inventory would freeze the inventory so that our more progressive maverick salesmen did not have anything to sell while we had too much inventory. That was really difficult.
That's really, where's the interest of the company here, actually? It's an internecine warfare between the marketing and sales department.
Yes. And the management.
And eventually, you rose in the ranks in that company. Yes. So you had that experience. If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. But let's come back to that as well. But let's talk a little bit more. What are some other challenges you found? But these are some brilliant challenges you're talking about now. This is where we're really getting to the nitty-gritty of how things really work.
Yes.
You know, you peel back the layers, what's really going on.
I also found out painfully, I think today successfully, that if you want to become the general manager, country manager, you need to know a bit more than your consumer marketing skill or your sales skill, or so you need to know a bit more about the whole thing. And I think I studied marketing because finance and accounting didn't interest me.
Right.
Definitely not. And I was promoted to country manager. I can calculate and things like that, but it doesn't interest me very much with balance sheets and accounts receivables and account payables and things like that. And in Japan, they pay on time anyway. So
it doesn't, receivable will be a minimal thing.
Inventory turns. Of course, we shouldn't have too much inventory, but does it turn in 42 days or 48 days? It's not really where my super interest lies. Then when I got the country manager job, our finance director had told me that I resign in a year, he said. Not because he would resign, but I tell you now, so you have time to find a replacement. It was very, very fair and nice. So we've spent time to find a replacement, but it took a lot of time. And actually,
it took a lot of time because why?
I think
it's a good company.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're paying well.
We wanted a relatively high spec person,
right?
But people with that spec did not work in such a low spec company. We were simply, you had a gap between what we as a company could offer. And we're not just talking salary, we're talking prestige and things like that. And I think many of us have run into that many, many times, that you have the perfect candidate and you're willing to pay, but it's a no-go. So we found a person very late, so late that the previous CFO, there would only be like 1 week of overlap because he had found a new job. And then the new guy comes in for final interview. Contracts are printed, and so he was just going to have a video conference with CFO at headquarters and say hello, and I'll start in 2 weeks. And the message he gave the CFO in the video, and I was sitting in my office next, was that I have decided not to join.
Oh. Wow.
So, oops. So suddenly I sat there without a CFO.
Wow.
And I had a good accountant. But she was accountant.
Yeah.
And we were just starting budget planning. And we had tons of reporting to do. I said, what do we do here? And that's when you have to make quick decisions. And then I remember that I had received an application for a job from a young French person who had 5 years of experience in controlling, who would like to work in Japan. And I had rejected his application because I didn't have a job like that in our small organization, but I had his CV. So I called him and say, are you still interested? And I think it took 4 weeks from I called him till he started working for us.
Wow, that's quick. Getting visas, packing up, getting over here.
I think he worked on some tourist visa to begin with. It was very quick.
Very quick.
And it worked out. Wow. It was tough. It was tough for him. It was tough for me. Yeah. But we learned a lot, both of us.
Yeah.
And today he's working for me in this office.
Oh, he's joined you.
He left and spent, I think, 6 or 8 years in a couple of other companies.
Yeah.
And then he came here three and a half years ago.
Got the band back together.
Yes.
Very good. And so if you think about also, you've had those experiences when you were there and you had to step up. Were there anything particularly difficult in that stepping up part? Because you've been a colleague and now you're the boss. And not only have you been a colleague, you're from that marketing department.
Yeah.
And now we froze your inventory, we harassed your sales
yes,
renegade guys,
yes.
And now you're our boss. I mean,
Yeah.
how was that transition from
It actually
marketing head to head?
It actually went a lot easier than expected,
Really?
but that was probably also because the sales results were really, really good. And people started to get bonuses and salary increases.
Okay,
That helps a bit, because we didn't pay bonus for quite a period.
right.
And then we started to reach higher and higher levels of sales. So I started in Tefal in '98, and 5 years later we had tripled the sales.
Triple the sales?
Yeah.
Wow, that's well done.
That's quite a lot, yeah.
That's something, yeah.
Yeah. So if people then believe we can continue to do that, then they get on board.
Yeah.
Of course, you cannot triple, but at least you could continue to grow. So I didn't really have much of a problem with that.
That's good.
And I think also that if you have worked here long, a lot of people will say the same, since you were young, and you have gradually grown up instead of being parachuted in.
Yes.
They know you.
Yes.
They may not like you, but they feel more comfortable with you than
They
with
know what they're getting.
They know what they're getting, yeah.
Now, that's the opposite problem when you came here, right?
Yeah.
Because you were parachuted in here. They're sort of an existing business.
Yes.
And you're dropped in. Okay,
Yeah.
you're now going to run it.
Yeah.
How did you find that? What was challenging about that?
About the
Being
parachuting.
parachuted in, yeah. You're the new boss here, I guess.
Yeah. People here it was easy enough.
Was it?
Yeah. There had been some difficulties in management here in this company, where the local manager and headquarter didn't see very evenly on anything. So there had been a period where the stability was not very good.
Yeah.
And that's what they were looking for.
Right.
But of course, yes, there was quite some rejection from the beginning, because he doesn't know anything about outdoor.
Well, exactly, yes. You've come from a completely different set of businesses.
Yes,
So
yeah,
how do
yeah.
you get over that?
We have people internally who are really product specialists, and they're the ones who were not so happy having a person like me who doesn't know about products. But then, of course, you just tell them that you rely on them, that they are the product specialists.
Yeah.
And I have no intention of taking their job away from them,
Yeah.
because it'll take me 10 years
Yeah.
of hard study
Yeah.
to even reach to the level they are today.
And you've got a lot of products in this
yes,
range. It's
yes.
huge too, right?
We also have at headquarters really product fanatics.
Really?
Millet is built on high-end functionality,
Right.
quality and functionality. So people our designers, they are active outdoor people themselves.
Right.
Or they work closely with mountaineers and mountain guides, and so they know their stuff. So there's no reason having a general manager trying to tell them what to do. So I think relatively quickly we got that settled, that those who know about that, they do that.
They do that, right.
And then I do what I know about. Of course, somebody asked what that was, but but I think that's very much today when you've been, say, around in many companies so many years in Japan, but quite similar in any way. You learn how to communicate in the organization.
Yeah.
You learn how to explain the vision and direction of the headquarter. And you also learn how to listen to why that is difficult in Japan, and then feed it back to headquarters, so you can find a common ground for what you have to do with the brand and the products in Japan.
So, you've had a lot of experience here over many years, and so if you think about getting engagement from teams, I don't know if you had those engagement scores in the different companies you work with here, but I had them in companies I've worked for here, and then, drive you nuts because they have the global scores and APAC's always lower and Japan's always the bottom of APAC, and you've got to try and explain why that is, and, are people really engaged? What are you doing over there? So, just in general terms, I don't know if you've actually been through that torturous process or not, but regardless of that, what have you found in your travels over the years in Japan that really works well in terms of getting engagement? You did talk about the sort of non-communication of going out and drinking, etc. before, all those sorts of things. What works well?
I think it comes back to success and failure. Success is not really a word in Japan. Non-failure is the word. I didn't fail.
That's a big difference, isn't it?
That's a big
That's
difference.
a big difference.
But
I
it takes
did not fail as opposed to I succeeded, yeah.
Yeah, I did not fail, so I succeeded.
Yeah.
And if 100 is the target, you're only interested, the Japanese interest is reaching 100. 110 doesn't count. 99 would be failure. I reached 100, that's fine. So I think what's important, really important, is to help people succeeding or not failing.
Yes.
So that creates comfort. If something goes wrong, you take the responsibility for it. You are the one to explain to headquarters. You are the one to try to find a solution. How can we make up for this? And you never put people like in the spotlight for not succeeding. You never do it as a person. You don't do it as a team. And one thing to avoid that is to be very careful with personal objectives. Don't give one person, one individual, one very specific, difficult objective. Because there's also the thing with buy-in. Because what's very interesting here is, I think, is that for Japanese, it's okay not to try. But if you try...
It's okay not to try.
Yeah, you give people a task, and you have this objective, and they say, yes, I understand. But they don't do anything. Because they have already said, I will fail. So, but if I try, I have to do it, I have to succeed. So there's this fine balance between, if I cannot succeed, I will not do anything, and that's okay with everybody. But if I try, I have said I can succeed, and therefore I have to succeed.
Does that work though? Because most companies have targets for their sales team. They have specific numbers that they have to hit under their area of responsibility.
Yes.
Maybe it's a bit different with marketing because it's selecting the products, it's the range, it's the pricing. But particularly sales is a numbers-driven organisation.
Yes.
So
we do that. We do that as well. We do that as well. Everybody has specific objectives and so, but it's not like it's been so overly projected and exposed.
Right.
It's not so that everybody knows that Suzuki failed and Hayashi succeeded.
Right. Keep it secret. You get a secret envelope. You're open the envelope. Your target is.
Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Because everybody has access to the figures.
I was going to say. Yeah.
We just not spotlighting it.
You don't spotlight it.
No.
Okay. You're not having I get together and say, okay, Suzuki, Tanaka, Hayashi, and look at your numbers up, your numbers going nowhere, your numbers down. It's not that type of pressure.
No, not that type of pressure. I tried earlier in this organization to put some more, get the salespeople to do some more effort to make some individual objectives with very attractive incentives. After a year, they basically came back and say, no, we don't like this. We would rather we all share one objective. Of course, we have sub-objectives, but the total objective we all share, and the incentive is related to that. And if everybody comes back and say that's how we want the incentive system to be, then it's probably better to listen.
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
Actually, I've heard that many times. That sort of individual incentivization doesn't really resonate so much. They prefer a group target and then a group sharing of the reward, which is quite different to us, isn't it?
But that also means that in terms of group dynamics, if there's somebody who's slacking, the rest will know and they will whip him. But it will not be presented at the sales meeting or the monthly all-staff meeting or so. It's being handled very subtle. But it works.
Yeah.
But that also means, I think that's probably one of the challenges if you come in here from abroad and have not worked in Japan before, that there is a lot of gray area. Your crystal ball is not clear. You have to accept that there are lots of things that goes on that you will never get to know. And even if you know, there's a lot of things you will still not understand.
Well, I've always found that maybe some of the Japanese teams I've worked with, but I always felt, wow, it's like working with a group of ninja. They are so good at hiding stuff, and then you only ever find out about it when they can't possibly hide it anymore. And by the time you find out about it, you can't do anything to stop it anyway because it's too late. If you'd known a bit earlier, you got the money, you got the power, the authority, you can try and get in there and fix it, but it's like the last gasp. Oh, by the way, we have this problem. It's like, what? You told me that earlier. You know?
Yeah.
It's just frustrating.
So that's a lot of listening, walking, small talking, and brainstorming, or just very loosely dropping off ideas. But they know if you drop off the same ideas 5 times in 2 weeks, you're probably serious about it.
Do something about it.
Better do something about it. Or
well, just on the subject of ideas, what about getting ideas from the team? Because a lot of people I've interviewed, when you speak with them, you realise, okay, they are the idea generation machine in the organisation.
Yes.
They are the ones
they are.
coming up with ideas, and they're trying to drive their ideas into the team. But what have you found works well to get ideas from the team, to get ideas, get creativity to bottom up?
What works the best is to make sure that you don't have a top-down type of style. You have to be very careful, I think, with the number of decisions that you or the management, could be headquarters or the other management level, that sort of just goes down. Because that means that everything has been decided. And that stops any thought process or idea process. So there's very little top-down how to do things or what to do. Because in my experience, it makes people very comfortable. Oh, he decided it all.
He takes all the responsibility.
He takes all the responsibility. It was a really stupid decision, but I don't have to say anything.
I'm just following orders.
I just don't following orders. And Japan is quite a lot like that.
Quite good at that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, and you can try to change your organization to not be like that. It'll take 40 years or so. And then you get new staff in all the time. If you're successful, your organization grows, you get new people in all the time. And I just don't think it's easy to change a culture like that. Because it's not your corporate culture, it's Japan as such.
So on that point too, I mean, if you've got the engagement, then people feel comfortable that they can put their ideas up and they're going to be looked at least, and maybe adopted. And then there's a whole element around all this about trust. So, you've been in different organizations throughout your career in Japan. What have you found works well in terms of building trust with you as a leader?
I think that's very much a thing about when you work in a foreign sales company like this. One of the biggest challenges for our Japanese colleagues is connection with headquarters. Language, business culture, communication types, styles, skills. That's really, really the big difficulty. And if you look at my showroom and you look at our showroom in France, you would think it's the same showroom. 80% of the products here are Japanese. They are Japanese. 80%. They're different. They all look the same, but they're still very, very different.
Is that sizing? Is that texture?
It's textures, it's fabrics, it's sizing, it's fit. It's what type of outdoor activity that they're designed for. Humidity in the mountains is very different. Cold is very different. Meaning that you have to get your company vision and mission and strategies and consumer targets and product specifications aligned to Japan. And it's very difficult to explain to headquarters because it's a lot easier just to do the same thing everywhere. If you can go in and you can explain and have a headquarter accept what your local specialists really know, and you can then move on with that, and we have the sales results, and you always step in to help, to support, but also say no when there's a stupid idea or something that headquarter, it's a good idea, but there's no way they're just not going to approve it, so that we stop it so nobody loses face. I think that's really probably the key point in creating a really good trust relationship. And the other thing is, of course, when things go when things go wrong, that you are there. When I was in Tefal, we were selling frying pans, mainly, and pressure cookers. Today you're probably familiar with the electric kettle. It didn't exist in Japan. We started that.
I've got one at home.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We started that. But that was the first time that the factory had to do a kettle for 100 volt company or country, not 110 or 240 or 220, with a high power. A lot of tests were done and everything was fine, and we sold a lot. The first year we sold 50,000, then we sold 120, then we sold 360.
Nice.
And then there was a kettle that burned.
Oh.
And that was just around when you had this recall period in Japan where you could see and the elevator with Schindler and that. So we had a product effect in a business that was going like this. And then you have to act really, really calm and quickly and take leadership. But it's a Japanese thing with Japanese media. So you can't do anything yourself. But you have to lead the team, listen to all their ideas, do all the brainstorming, do all the sorting out of everything, and then letting them do what has to be done. So it's trust one way, and that leads to trust the other way.
In that case, normally as the head of the business, from a media point of view, you are expected to front the media and explain what you're going to do about this and why it happened.
Yes.
So, I think if you remember the president of McDonald's, she had to do a lot of bowing at the press conference.
Yeah.
So did you avoid all that, or that's what you did?
We decided to avoid that.
Okay.
Because it didn't become a huge issue as such. We didn't cause any personal damage. It was a kettle that burned, not a house that burned down.
Right.
We took it all back. We checked everything, and we replaced what was necessary to replace. And we decided to keep me out of the light.
Right.
Because whether interviews were done in English or in Japanese, it would go wrong.
Yes.
It would, definitely go wrong.
Right.
And you would lose consistency in the message because somebody had said something 3 days ago and then there's a new one saying something. So the marketing director, and he was really good at that, he managed all the communication. A couple of times I signed something, but he had written it all. And of course everything also checked with headquarters and things like that. But in a situation like that, to be able to say, stay calm and take the leadership, keep everybody calm, I think that helps create a lot of trust as well.
Did the team, but from a Japanese perspective, when something goes wrong, the usual format here is you see it on television, on the news, right? And they're all lined up and they're bowing deeply in apology, And there's sort of like a set format here for that. Was there an expectation on the part of the team that you as the leader should be down somewhere or here or somewhere doing a press conference and you doing a very deep bow of apology and taking responsibility as leader? Was that the expectation?
No, not really. I think they knew that it would probably go wrong. But I did I did visit a couple of customers.
Okay.
Very sort of incognito, but simply to apologize for the inconvenience that we had caused, together with the sales director. So I did visit a couple, but we didn't have any public press conferences because it didn't blow up like... No, it wasn't. But internally in the organization and with our trade partners, it was, of course, a huge issue, especially when it's a new business with huge potential, and it could have died completely.
And what happened? Did it keep going up? Or it kept on going?
Yeah. We managed it. Yes, we managed it. But that's also, I think, when you learn with the Japanese team. It's not only Japan, but definitely Japan, that however much effort has to go into this, however many hours a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it'll just be done.
You gotta do it.
Yeah. If it's possible, it will be done. And nothing else counts. Your family vacation doesn't count. Nothing else counts.
6 o'clock, you got to stay.
Yeah.
We stay till 6 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah. You don't even have to tell it to people. No. You actually have to tell them to go home.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say
so that they don't, overheat or blow up or break down or whatever. So, but that's also one thing that you learn that you can simply trust that things will be done. And you don't need to sit there to check if they do their things. Because that also looks a bit like a negative management type of thing. He's sitting here till 10 o'clock to check if I'm doing my stuff. But that's, trust.
What about culture? You know, you've generally you have an umbrella culture of the organisation, and then you have the local branch version of that, and then you have you who've got your leadership values and principles and your essence, a type of individual culture for yourself, really, and how you want to lead the team. What have you found works well in terms of building a unified culture in the organisation?
I think I would be bragging if I say I've found out how to do that. That's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
I think what you can achieve is that you have a balance, that we accept, respect each other, but to really get it unified is...
How many people in the organisation?
We are 35 here in the office.
Right.
Yeah. And then we have 30 people working in shops, so shop assistants. So, but the office here is 35 people, so not huge.
So you got still 60 odd people, 65 people. So how do you unify that group together?
Honestly, Corona has made it very difficult because it's difficult to be together and it's very difficult to unify on teams. But we use this showroom a lot.
Okay.
So once every 2 months or so, we order in sushi and pizza and beer and shochu, and then we have a reception here from late afternoon. And everybody, it's free talking, free participation. Some people participate 30 minutes. Some people are first to come, last to go. You always have those as well. But they also clean up after
They'd be the
themselves.
Australians if there was beer.
Yeah. You have to stop the supply chain, otherwise they won't go home. So we do that, and that's quite successful. We also do every month, of course, we have the standard town hall meeting. It's a presentation meeting. You know, people are not going to ask questions or critical questions or so, which we also do here for all staff. And now we also do, of course, Teams broadcast, so that people we have out in the shops can follow on laptops as well. When we have visitors from headquarters, we also make sure that there's a meeting, there's a presentation, also very often done here. And now and then, when some of our from our community mountaineers or mountain guides or so are in Tokyo, we bring them in here and they give a presentation 30 minutes about what they're doing, so that people learn something about. Last week we had a short team. There was a ski competition in Hakuba, ski mountaineering. So you walk up on your skis, you don't slide down. Some people
go up the hill with the skis on.
Yeah, some people do that. Okay,
That would not be me.
it would not be you. It would not be me. But some people do that,
Okay.
and it's apparently there's a lot of feeling of achievement when you're up.
I bet there is. Yeah.
Yes. And we arranged that if people were interested in going over the weekend to see this competition and maybe do 1 day of skiing, then please go. Company will pay.
Nice.
So small things like that. But it's really been... We were planning a company camp, a network or team building camp in February, because we have had quite a few new colleagues joining. We have increased the staff by 20-25%.
Oh, that's a lot.
So quite a few new people coming from other industries. So we planned a 2-day team working session in February, but because of Mambo, of course we had to postpone it. I don't want to call it cancellation, but postponement. So hopefully in the fall. But we're trying to work on various things like that.
So if you're going to give some advice to someone who's being sent to Japan, okay, please go to Japan, run our operation there. With your experience, the different calibrations of things you've done, what would be some advice you give a person who's going to be doing that?
Listen. Ask questions. Listen. If you don't understand the answer, ask again from another angle. It depends, of course, if you're in a very, say, specialist function, you know, where everything is, if it's accounting or finance or so, but if it's the country manager,
Yeah, there's got to be the head. There's got to be
if it's the head, you really have to listen how things are working. And I think what what I hear from people that I know who have been here long as well, what's very often the difficulty when people come and get parachuted in is they very often come from an organization that is much bigger than the Japanese organization. And therefore they can do things that the Japanese organization cannot do, not because people are stupid or anything, but the headcount is maybe only 20% of the other organization. So you cannot just do the same thing as people would like you to do. Sometimes in the small companies we don't have a team on, say, the accounting team. You have an accountant. Or you have one person doing this or two persons doing that. So I think very often we misunderstand the resources that we have, what they are actually capable of doing simply because of scale of business. That's very important. The other thing is that we know that lots of things in Japan just function differently. Apparently, I've never really worked abroad, so I don't know.
Actually, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically been grown up in Japan.
Yeah. I can't really compare. But lots of things, even if it's things like warehousing, the way that Japanese warehouse suppliers operate and handle and manage their warehouses, the way that they store the products are different. They're not using pallets to the same extent. In Japan, you don't have sprinklers in the ceiling for fire prevention. We have a different regime of fire prevention and fire training, and you have to listen. You really have to listen to understand how this operates. How does your earthquake training, earthquake evacuation training work, for example? How many have tried that when they get parachuted into Japan? They haven't tried it before. So that's really... Then don't... I can say this because I did it myself and I did wrong. Don't teach Japan how Japan actually works. Don't teach the Japanese how Japan works.
Okay.
They know.
You said you did that yourself. What did you do to teach Japan how it works?
Well, when I was younger and got frustrated that things didn't work like I wanted it to work, of course I tried to explain them how it should be, and that it's only in our company we cannot figure out how to do it, and get upset and pointing fingers. And the result of that was never very good. So don't tell the Japanese how they should do the Japanese things. We know a lot of things about Japan, but as foreigners, I think I'm probably one of those who have, say, worked most of my time with Japanese people. I live in Yokohama in a very Japanese neighborhood. I don't have a huge weekly foreign network that I am with. Still, I know that I don't understand. You just cannot. And very often when we discuss things about business and so, we are together with a group of other foreign business people, unfortunately only businessmen, very few women around. And then we can share our common frustrations against the Japanese system.
Yes.
And it's good to get some steam off, but it doesn't doesn't fix anything. So don't do that. Don't teach them how to do things. Of course, if you have, say, a new computer system that has to work like this, very specific things, of course. But otherwise, no, I don't think it's a good idea. Really not. So, I think the other thing I talked about, this understanding of success and failure, which I think is very important. Related to that, it's very important to understand the importance of precedence. Nobody's going to do it the first time. Nobody is going to do it the first time because the risk of failure is too high. It's also linked to many Japanese find that there is one correct way of doing anything. One correct way of doing anything. And meaning that if they don't know that correct way of doing things, it's difficult for many Japanese to do something. And you don't have a correct way of something that hasn't been done before. So they're very, very reluctant to do something that hasn't been tried before. That's something that's important to understand. And linked to that is also the time and effort that can go into prevention of reoccurrence. Sai hatsuboshi. I'm sure you have known the word.
Yes.
Something that went wrong must never go wrong again. The easy way is never to try again. That's
nothing, right?
That's the easy
Do
way.
nothing is the best shot, yeah.
But sometimes you have to try it again. And then the time and effort and money that the Japanese organization, also the government, will put into making manuals and safeguards around it, so that it actually operationally becomes impossible to try again. That is something that it really exists.
It's a different mentality, isn't it? I mean, you've got the clever, highly well-paid, bonus-receiving CFO in headquarters who says, look, we've done the numbers, we can accept a 3% defect rate.
Yeah.
Because to get it to zero defect is going to cost so much, and look, it's just cheaper to replace.
Yes,
and,
yes.
So don't worry about the 3% defect rate in Japan.
Yeah.
And you get to Japan, it's like zero defect rate.
Yes, yeah.
So again, it's a completely different mentality, isn't it?
Yeah. Along the same lines as this, with that something has been tried before, there is a way to do things. The Japanese are also very, very pragmatic. They want to get things done. So my learning is that try to keep things as informal as possible. Because if it's very informal, it's difficult to point fingers and say people did something wrong. Don't write things down as a rule, because if there is a rule, there's no exceptions.
Right.
But it's very difficult to get the staff to work with some exception from a rule. So once you write something down, it's really cast in stone.
It's also, and I've had this trouble itself, Aussies, are fairly casual, and, I'll say something, not putting a lot of attention to it, just say something.
Yeah.
A week later, you realise, oh my God,
Did
they've
I say
taken that as gospel.
Yes.
And now they're doing something they don't need to be doing, because
Yeah.
I just made a remark which
Yeah.
was not maybe a thought bubble from me,
Yes.
has now become law.
Yeah.
And you learn not to do that. You
Yeah.
learn to keep your mouth shut about that sort of
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
Otherwise, off they go.
Another thing you can learn along that line is that I have tried. I've never come close to ever succeeding, and not at all to mastering Japanese jokes or Japanese humor.
Humour,
It's sort of, I'm not wired like that. That also means nobody understands when I say something that's funny,
yeah.
or I think it's funny.
You think it's funny?
So when you consciously say something that you think is funny, it's a good idea to say joke.
It's a joke.
Yeah. They won't understand it, but at least they don't get offended that you said something stupid. Because I have also had the same, did I say, wow, that's how they understood it, and it was just a stupid, funny remark that didn't mean anything.
I think too, I mean, I don't know about Danish culture, but Anglo-Saxon culture's got a lot of irony built into the humour, self-depreciation built into the humour, a lot of, I would call it sort of nasty, taking people down part of the humour, it's got a lot of that stuff in it, which doesn't travel well to Japan.
It doesn't travel well,
translate
no.
well. And I've had to teach myself to, no, don't go there. That's not going to fly. It doesn't work. You may be going through your head. This happens in my marriage too, because she's Japanese, I'm Australian, and I'll say things and I'll be in serious trouble, for quite a while until it calms down.
Yes.
Should have said that, not mean. It just wasn't meant in the way it was received. So you've got to be careful with it.
Your humor doesn't travel well, really. The Scandinavian humor, Danish can be very, very sarcastic.
Right.
And that of course means that people think that you are after them.
Yeah.
But it's actually, if you are, say, the target of a sarcastic joke, it's probably somebody who thinks that you did something really nice.
Right.
It's actually
they actually applauding you.
But how do you explain that to people? You just can't. It doesn't work.
So if we had to think about, should this person being sent to Japan learn Japanese?
If that person thinks she will stay for 15 years, yes.
Okay, 15 years.
Yeah,
Right?
because it takes 15 years to be good enough to really make use of it.
Yeah.
And the Japanese language, the level of English has improved. It's still inferior to the rest of the world, but compared to 15, 20 years ago,
It's much better.
it's much, much better. And then there's something called Google Translate and things like that. It's far from perfect, but it's better than the old dictionary. And it takes a lot of effort. I spent, when I was studied Japanese, it was 1 year, 6 hours in school a day. And my wife put me to homework 3 hours, at least 3 hours a day. And after a year...
You're still married?
I'm still married. That's still...
Legendary. Legendary success there.
And today, yes, my Japanese is good. I've worked in Japanese all the time. I rarely use English in the office. Only when I write. My written Japanese is just not good enough. And still today, after 30 years, sometimes when I go home, I just want to sit alone somewhere and cry and say, after 30 years, this is the level I got to.
Too, though, and you probably had the same experiences. You use Japanese in the office, and you make mistakes.
Yeah.
Except no one ever tells you that you've made a mistake, especially with the boss. So the boss doesn't get corrected, and you repeat the same grammatical error year after year after year with no knowledge that that's an error. Which is, and I've said to my team different times, look, I'm trying to improve my Japanese. If I make a mistake, please tell me so I can correct it. Oh, yes, boss. Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's a very good point, because when somebody does that, and it does happen, it has started to happen, that's the first real serious show of trust.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
That they can come to you as the boss and say, Rasmussen, that's not how we write this or say this.
Yeah.
And I actually get it not only from management level, I also get it from normal staff level at times where they may send me a mail, but you got this kanji wrong, or this is not how this was supposed to be pronounced. So it does happen, but not as much as it should. But then again, they would have to come running all the time,
they're very busy correcting our Japanese. We come out of a language class instead of business.
Yes. So, no, if you speak Japanese, it helps. It helps a lot. But I think today, unless you have a good starting point from when we were young, you have studied Japanese in junior high school or high school, or what do I know. But if you come in, you're 30 years old, you have zero Japanese, the effort to learn it, I think it's too much. Yeah.
How about your definition of leadership?
Yeah. I think when we talk leadership or read books about it, I don't write books, not yet, maybe I should one day. We have to make a very clear distinction between leadership and management.
Yeah.
And we don't always do that. Leadership to me is where you very clearly show people what the vision of the company is, the mission that we have, and those two things can be pretty difficult to separate as well. And how we are, in rough terms, are intending to go there. To be able to convince people, stick to it, make sure we get the resources in place so that people can actually do what you're asking them to do, whether that is more money or a new laptop with more power or 3 more staff or whatever it is we need, a bigger showroom or whatever it is. But to make sure that things are in place so that people can do what it is you want them to do, but you let them and managers make sure how the operations are, really. And one thing, I had to write it down because I always forget it, but so one thing I always found out that I was doing, because I have been in very good schools in the companies I've worked for, very, very good structured company. But it's always for me about, before we do anything, be very clear the reason why. Why do we do this? Why do we do it? That's not the same as objective. That's more a mission type of thing. Why do we do it? And then you can establish your objectives. And then you have to find out, is that actually viable? Because if you ask somebody to an organization that's not viable, you're not a good leader. The next thing you ask is it relevant? Is it relevant for your team? Is it relevant for your headquarters? Is it relevant for your customers? Is it something people want to buy into, can buy into? Then you ask if it's appropriate. That means values. In our company, do we do like this, or do we sell products like this? Is it appropriate? And that's a value type of thing. Then the next thing becomes more sales and marketing, and that is it consistent with everything else you do? If I suddenly start to sell motorcycles, or where's the consistency? Or soccer shoes, or it has to be consistent, because if you split it all over, you're losing your resources. And the next thing is it something we can continue, or is it a one shot off? If it's a one shot off, it's a different type of organization. Some organizations are incredibly good at that, but it's very difficult to make sure that you have a stable growth. You don't know when you have a hit and when you don't sell anything. So it has to be something that can be continued. And we do the same with products. Sometimes we do a product that is a one shot off because something in seasonality or so. But typically when we spend time on developing a product, marketing a product, it has to be something we can continue the next 3 to 5 to 7 years. Of course with small changes and so. But to me, to set that in place, that's what leadership is about. But how to really do it, that becomes management.
That's execution base,
yeah. And you have to be very careful not to...
get mixed up.
Yeah.
Well, Per, this has been fabulous, I have to say.
Thank you very much.
I know we could go for another couple of hours on this quite easily.
Oh, easily. Yeah, I didn't go through all my notes.
Lots of notes there, which is good.
Yeah, it's...
so, thank you, Per.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much.
Please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.